So, my friends, a week has passed and still Manchester United are being linked with a move for Carlos Baleba. And I don't know why, but I'm really starting to get the feeling that this might actually happen. And of course, fans are incredibly excited. Baleba is an extremely gifted player. But there is one question. Does he actually work and complement with what we've got in midfield currently? And more importantly, does he work with Bruno Fernandes? Now, before we talk about the two of them together and how they could complement each other, we actually need to look at them as individuals and look at their strengths and their skill set. We'll start off with Carlos Baleba, and I think the thing which really stands out is his press resistance. Carlos Baleba is a press resistant player in the first phase, able to take the ball under pressure and play out from the back. He's also a really impressive long distance ball carrier, excellent at driving over large distances with the ball. In terms of out of possession, without the ball, he's a player that covers ground incredibly well. He's got good acceleration and good athleticism. But importantly, he is also very strong in the duel. He's combative and wins a lot of tackles. If we now look at Bruno Fernandes, we get something very different. With Bruno Fernandes, we are getting incredible work rate. The guy never stops running. He covers every blade of the pitch. We also know with Bruno, though, that we get passing quality. Bruno Fernandes, for me, is one of the best passers in the Premier League. His passing range, his vision is an absolute joke. And that also carries on into his creativity. I do believe that Bruno Fernandes is one of the best creative players that we have ever seen in Premier League history. He's that good, in my opinion. And of course, he always chips in with goals. This man is a good goal scorer. He provides output for Manchester United. So those are the two strengths, the two sets of strengths, I should say, of these two players. The question is now, from a tactical point of view, can they actually complement each other? Now, for today, we're going to focus on Manchester United on the ball and how these two could potentially work together should Baleba sign for the club. And we're going to start off in the first phase because it feels like this is where every conversation regarding Manchester United starts. Can United move the ball out from the back? Can we be press resistant in the first phase? Recently, the answer to that question has been no, because we've often seen De Ligt and Casemiro or Ugarte as sort of the first receivers in midfield, not press resistant players. However, if we suddenly put Baleba into this position, things change. Baleba is a player that is so press resistant that a lot of the time the opposition won't even bother pressing him. So not only can he evade pressure in the first phase, but he can actually evade pressure to such a high standard that the opposition may not even bother pressing him, which straight away is a big plus for Manchester United. If we can make the opposition question whether they even want to come into these positions, that's going to be a huge positive. If they do come into these positions and try and press us, Baleba is very press resistant. He's excellent in the first phase. He's got a good change of direction and, importantly, really good acceleration to sort of burst away over the first few yards to avoid the pressing forward. Now, that's not to say he's perfect. He is an incredibly young player, which means he's a little bit raw. At times, he might switch off in terms of his focus. His concentration on the game may just drop off occasionally. So he will make mistakes in the first phase because he's so young. But I think in terms of long term, that's a press resistant player right there. The other great thing we do with this system, though, and this setup, is we get Bruno Fernandes now much higher up the football pitch. And that has to be a positive for this club. Sometimes, even with someone like Baleba, you can't play through the first phase and you've got to go more direct over the top. With Benjamin Sesko standing at 6'5" and excelling in combination play, dropping the ball off into midfield, imagine we then have Bruno Fernandes picking up the second ball with runners like Benjamin Sesko, Brian Mbeumo and Matheus Cunha in front of him. This could potentially be very dangerous, and it's why someone like Baleba is a game changer, because he offers himself press resistance in the first phase, but also he reduces the burden on Bruno Fernandes. Bruno doesn't have to drop so deep to try and help out. He can trust his teammates in deeper areas. He can move a little bit further forward, and like I said, on the second ball, that could be a lethal transitioning threat. The other thing that's really interesting about these two in midfield is a little bit further up the pitch, the potential ball progression that they provide due to the left-footed, right-footed nature. So Manchester United have had a lot of right-footed midfielders over the years. Bruno Fernandes, Ugarte, Casemiro, Kobbie Mainoo, all currently at the club, all right-footed. Baleba, however, is left-footed, and that could change things, because we know how Ruben Amorim likes United to progress the ball. Amorim is a manager that is keen on exploiting the channels being, of course, this position over here, and also this position over here on the other side. But to exploit that, you need players that can actually access that space, particularly with their passing game. Now on the right hand side, we have players in abundance that can do this. So we know we have this sort of up, back and through method. So let's say a centre back may have the ball, they're going to move the ball up into a forward position, let's say to Brian Mbeumo. He's then going to play the ball backwards to Bruno Fernandes in midfield, and then we're going to hook the ball forward. Down the right hand side, this is actually quite easy and quite natural for the United players, because as this ball comes backwards here, this backwards pass, Bruno Fernandes is stepping onto it, and we can see the ball is going to be on his right foot. That means he can play that sort of first time sweeping pass round the corner into that channel that was spoken about, and United can quickly access the space. Bruno is amazing at this pass. Casemiro is also pretty good as well, although a little bit inconsistent, but it allows United to quickly move the ball forward. If we have a right footer on the left hand side, it isn't quite as easy. So let's just put Bruno Fernandes over here for a second, because this is the problem that we've had recently. We will move the ball down the left side of the pitch in this position, and we'll come back inside the pitch, and it's on Bruno's left foot. So we can't access the channel quite as easily because we've got a right-footed player there. However, if we move Carlos Baleba into this position, his left foot into this position, then suddenly we have the same thing on this side that we have on the other side. And particularly with Cunha and Sesko working together, that could potentially be really nice. Cunha is a player that will move towards the ball, potentially dragging a right back out of position. We know that Sesko is a player that likes to move into the channels, and Amorim has spoken about that already. Now all we need is the left-footed player to hook that ball into the channel to find him. Carlos Baleba could be exactly that. Now, it is worth pointing out that this midfield dynamic could be a little bit different. We could also see Bruno on the left, Baleba on the right. I'm not sure that it will be fixed. I could imagine them potentially interchanging during a game, moving into different positions. But it's certainly a different dynamic in midfield that we don't currently possess. Now, the final thing that I want to discuss in today's video isn't a negative as such, but it is something I'm a little bit concerned about, or certainly something I have on my mind. And that's when Manchester United are a little bit further up the pitch. You see, I see Baleba as a first phase specialist, someone who is amazing at dropping deep, being press resistant, lovely. Second phase, ball progression, great. He can carry the ball forward, he can stride forward, lovely stuff. But when Manchester United move towards the final third, we know that we see a slight change in the shape. One of the midfielders, often Bruno Fernandes, will move a little bit further forward into this 10 position here, creating what is almost like a 3-1-5-1 shape as United look to really overload the last line of the attack and almost overwhelm the opposition. And in a way, this could work. We know that it suits Bruno Fernandes. Bruno in this position here, in zone 14, if we quickly get zone 14 up, Bruno Fernandes in that position is deadly. That's what we love to see. We know that this role can give Bruno a little bit of freedom, that he can drift into different positions, he can go and dominate different zones, he can overload the left-hand side, and then in the next moment he can overload the right-hand side. That's great. That's going to suit Bruno Fernandes. It can also suit Baleba, because Baleba is good at protecting the ball, particularly under pressure. He's a strong player. He looks after the ball well. He's often relatively safe on the ball with his passing. He's not the most expansive passer I've ever seen. I think he can develop there. But he's a relatively safe passer. I don't think he's going to force the ball too much, and I don't really think he's going to lose it too much in this position either. However, then it comes to the concern. And my concern is, I still don't feel that Manchester United have that pass-first midfielder. And what I mean by that is a player with the instinct to pass, to keep the ball moving forward. Think of a Michael Carrick, that sort of player who just wants to pass the ball. Doesn't want to dribble, doesn't want to carry, he wants to pass it. I still feel that United lack that. Now, you may say you can see rotations in midfield, and we absolutely could. Baleba can carry the ball forward. He's excellent at doing that, by the way. Such a good ball carrier. And Bruno Fernandes could drop deeper. We've seen him doing this in pre-season. He could drop a little bit deeper. He could be the player that drops a little bit deeper and gets on the ball in these positions and sort of keeps things ticking over. But in terms of his mentality, his instincts, his habits as a player, he's always going to drift further forward. I think you can coach him as much as you like. He's always going to be a player that drifts. And even for defensive reasons, when we lose the ball, we know that Baleba would be the better player suited to this deeper position. So that is my only concern with this dynamic. I still don't think we have a player who thrives off of playing a lot of passes and a lot of safe passes as well at a good tempo, good temperament. Bruno isn't that player, Baleba isn't that player, and Mbeumo and Cunha are not that player. So in terms of in our core, in our diamond almost in the middle of the pitch here, we still lack something just a little bit, I feel. Now, of course, when I'm raising that final point there, I am talking about the current iteration, the current version of Baleba. He's still a very young player who is going to develop. Believe me, he's going to develop and become much better. Perhaps as he grows as a player, he will become that player that wants to pass a little bit more. Perhaps under Amorim at Manchester United, that's the perfect next step for him. Maybe that's the way for him to become the passing midfielder. Perhaps Baleba needs United as much as United need Baleba in order for him to become the best version of himself. But in terms of immediately, let's say he signs for the club this weekend and he's immediately a Manchester United player and we go to a Baleba, Bruno Fernandes midfield, I think we're going to see massive upgrades on what we've currently got. I think Baleba with whoever is better than anything that we currently have in midfield. However, I cannot go as far as calling it a perfect midfield duo because for me, it still lacks something just a little bit, which is that natural passing, that almost metronomic passing in the middle of the pitch. Perhaps someone else can provide it, a different partner in the future. Perhaps Baleba can become it. Perhaps Amorim doesn't want that profile at all in his squad, which would be completely fine if that's the direction that he wants to go in. So I think Baleba and Bruno Fernandes would be an upgrade on what we've got currently. I think Baleba is just a wonderful player. So is Bruno. Good players together tend to make things happen. They tend to work and find a way to make it work, particularly if the manager gives them the license and the environment to do so. So I think these two would do very well. I think we would improve in a lot of areas, but it's still not quite perfect. Although, does perfect even exist in football? I don't really know anymore, so that's where I'm going to leave the conversation for today. Baleba and Bruno, very, very good in midfield together, would take United to the next level, but perhaps not quite all the way to the top just yet. Just yet. Those are my thoughts, my opinions. I want to hear yours in the comments down below. And whilst you're there, could you please leave a like on the video, subscribe, and also get notifications on, please. But apart from that, we are finished. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.